Debbie, so you've actually watched the show Girls, which liberals like to present as if it's the All in the Family of today, though it probably is about 1/100th the audience that All in the Family did way back when it was essential seeing, or any popular shows from the past, even Seinfeld. But Girls, a show I've never watched, apparently has a new person on its staff, and you find it, I guess the right word is amusing, so maybe you could tell us a little bit about this.
I think it's kind of disgusting, too, and a further lowering of the presidency as if the Obamas could lower it anymore. Their daughter, their oldest daughter, Malia Obama, is working on the set of Girls. And when you said it has 1/100th of the audience of All in the Family, I would say it's also an insult to say that it even has 1/100th of the intelligence or the insight of All in the Family.
Which, by the way, was a liberal show, by the way. We're giving it credit, even though Norman Lear clearly is a leftist.
He truly is a leftist, but I think he recently admitted in an interview and in his book, he's in his 90s now, I believe, and
Right.
he admitted that he had to cast certain people and say certain things, and that he did this all because of race and racism, and that he admits that it's anti-white racism. So at least he's somewhat honest.
And of course,
yes, he is
the story with the show was Archie was supposed to be the bad guy, but everyone loved Carol O'Connor's playing of him so much that Archie became a pretty sympathetic figure.
That's right. It backfired. And not only that, but he did at least do a spin-off, The Jeffersons, based on Archie, his neighbor, George Jefferson, George and Louise. And George was as much of a racist against white people, maybe more, than Archie Bunker was against black people.
And Sherman Helmsley,
others.
who also was on Howard Stern as you were many times, was a pretty likable guy.
That.
And oh yeah, Sherman Helmsley was on there a lot, and Howard really liked him. But same as you. But you know, he was a likable character too. You know, sometimes people are so charismatic and such good actors that it doesn't matter.
Right. And listen, everyone on that show who was black was pretty much either a racist or, you know, went along with the fact or was resigned to the fact that George Jefferson was racist. Remember, he had those neighbors across the hall, Roxy Rocker. What were their names? Tom and I can't remember.
I don't know. I didn't watch much TV.
Couple.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
I didn't watch much TV. So, of course, he moved on up to the east side so he could be around a lot more white people.
Right. And he hated them, though.
Yeah.
He hated, there was a UN translator that was white. That was one of his neighbors that he always mocked. And he lived across the hall from this couple, Tom, and I can't remember the wife's name, but the wife was black, and she was played by Roxy Rocker, who is Lenny Kravitz's real-life mother. She passed away. And he was racist against them, and he called their child an Oreo, and their child married his son Lionel.
Right.
And, you know, he was a racist. So, anyhow, you know, that show, comparing any of Norman Lear's shows, which were brilliant, to this show, Girls, which is by Lena Dunham, is just an outrage and an insult because Girls is crap. It's just gross. It's just pushing the sexual envelope for no reason. And you know what? I have no interest in seeing a fat girl naked having sex.
Oh, you like seeing? Wait. You know, how about thin girls, Debbie? Are you trying to tell us something here?
I mean, I don't want to see any of it. It's just gross. Okay. Listen, Lena Dunham got her start by making her own movie called I think it was called Tiny Furniture, and it was the worst movie ever. And it basically is what Girls became. It was the prelude to Girls. She has sex with some random guy she met in one of those cement tubes or tunnels that they have at a construction site, and it's just gross. She's a gross, fat, crass, ugly girl with nothing of any value at all to say. And she's a child molester. I mean, she admitted in her so-called memoir, I don't know that you could call that crap a memoir, but she admitted that she molested her little sister
right.
in the same way, probably, actually a lot worse way so I shouldn't even say the same way, but a lot worse than the Duggar guy did.
Mm-hmm.
The Duggar guy apparently touched his sisters on top of their clothes.
Yeah, that was second base outside the clothes. That was third base inside the clothes.
Right. Lena Dunham said that she basically explored her little sister's vagina, put stuff in it, stuck her fingers up it. She's disgusting.
I have a dumb question. And another thing is, she had her own she could play with, which the Duggar kid just didn't have that option with himself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's not go there.
Okay.
I know I started. I opened up the topic for discussion.
Right. Maybe we should get back to Malia Obama.
Yeah,
and this is the world that they want to.
The reason why we're talking about the way Lena Dunham is and how gross she is that these Obamas sent their daughter, the first daughter, to work on this show with this disgusting child molester, sexual predator who is a liar and has a disgusting show. I mean, some of the stuff that goes on this show, for example, it's not just the fat, disgusting, mosquito bite afflicted Lena Dunham having sex with various people. It's also a scene where a guy gives oral anal sex to Allison Williams, Brian Williams, the deposed NBC lying anchor's daughter. There's a scene of that. This is what you're going to send the first daughter to work on? It's a depraved show. I mean, Al Goldstein, who you and I mentioned, or you mentioned, and we discussed in one of our previous conversations, he's thinking from his grave in hell somewhere that, I missed the boat. If I would have waited a couple of decades, the stuff that I was promoting and pushing on America that tore American culture down would be hip and in, and the president's daughter would be working on the set of my sleazy show.
Right.
Because that's what's basically happening. And, the Obamas are big on, we're a very wholesome family. We protect our daughters. We don't allow them around any stuff like that. Meanwhile, the Obamas constantly had their girls watching the show Glee, which was a highly sexualized show.
Right.
And then now they've sent their daughter to work on this disgusting, depraved, pointless, push-the-envelope sexually show.
And there's a sense of
and they're frauds.
There's a sense of hypocrisy that if Jimmy Carter had done the same thing with Amy, wouldn't be as hypocritical because, we don't like Carter, he's an anti-Semite, but he sent Amy to public schools. He was not a hypocrite about that kind of thing.
I have to say, and this is one of the things I've written about on my website, I like Amy Carter among all contemporary first daughters. She is not in the public eye. She's not out there. I don't know what her politics are. I don't care. She's out of the limelight. You never hear about her at all. Whereas you've got all these other first daughters that are all big liberals, all in these either depraved jobs like Malia Obama or pushing us on total liberal BS and hypocrisy like Chelsea Clinton talking about food insecurity in foreign lands and all this stuff. And
forget Chelsea Clinton. Who came in? Who was after Clinton?
Well, who was after Clinton?
There were a couple more first daughters.
That's the thing. I want to talk about that. Let's talk about that. Jenna Bush Hager, who got this job in the Today Show for the same reason that Chelsea Clinton got a job at NBC News, because they were born out of the right vagina, and because they're first daughters. That's the only reason. This Jenna Bush Hager is a complete airhead. If you've ever watched her on the Today Show or the third hour of the Today Show, she's a complete moron, and she's totally pushing us on this stuff. She did a report where she was gushing over this show. I can't remember what it's called, but Jeffrey Tambor stars in it. He plays like a Caitlyn Jenner kind of a character who's had a sex change or who's a transvestite or transsexual of some sort. And she thinks it's a fabulous show. She said she's a big fan. She's glad America is coming to terms with this kind of stuff. She is a liberal. The Bush daughters voted for Obama. Mark your word on that. They did not vote for Romney. They did not vote for McCain. They are liberals. And, by the way, Jenna Bush Hager was an ambassador for UNICEF, which we all know is a leftist, anti-Israel, pro-terrorist, pro-Muslim, third worlder charity. These girls need to just, shut up, move on, and live their lives. And the only one that has done that is Amy Carter.
And by the way,
Update her.
Just because you're bringing it up, I will mention something that I kind of shocked you with. I knew in law school, I didn't know her in college, though we went to college together as well, Corinna Gore. And I got to say, I have nothing bad to say about her. She was a class act. She was polite. She was nice. She was smart. I have absolutely nothing bad to say. She was cute, by the way, too.
Yeah, but she was also pushing a lot of this liberal baloney.
Yeah, but you knew she didn't care. This was during her father's campaign. I can almost, forgive her for not sabotaging her father's campaign. I interacted with her, and I have nothing bad to say. I mean, that's the truth.
All right, she was good looking.
No, she was. I have nothing but her personality. I talked to her. I spent time with her. She was cool. I mean, but I always was a little suspect about Tipper. I always thought Tipper might be all right.
All right, she was pushing a lot of this stuff, especially when she was married to the Schiff guy, which she probably married for the money.
Who knows? She was good looking, though.
Yeah, but, the only one I can give credit to is Amy Carter, because she disappeared.
Okay.
You don't know what happened to her. You never hear from her. I wish we could say the same for her father. Sadly, we cannot. Jimmy Hamas Carter is forever pushing his friends in Islamic terrorist groups.
Well, you could say you never hear much about certain Bush 1 sons. You hear a lot more about some than others. You don't hear much about Neil for a reason.
Well, yeah, he's not really I guess he is a presidential son, that's true.
He has the same parents.
When you did hear about him, though, it was because he was accepting hookers paid for by the United Arab Emirates, and while he was married and so on. And by the way, his daughter, Lauren Bush,
Yep.
I have some stories about her, too.
I know someone who she did that. Oh, you're talking about that UN feed whatever thing? Because I know someone who worked with her on that.
The feed thing is a lot of baloney. Most of the money doesn't go to any.
Yeah, I know Ellen Gustafson, she did that with, and it seemed like a big scam to me.
It's a big scam. That's number one.
To get people
but
in public
also, she dated. I wrote about this on my site. When she was at Yale, she dated a guy whose family was financing Al Qaeda, and it was the feds wanted to investigate this guy, but they were called off because Bush was president at the time. And it would be a big embarrassment to Bush that his own niece is dating Al Qaeda's financier son. And I'm going to be writing more about that, but there is something about it on my website, and I have the federal documents to prove it. I mean, these first children and first nieces and whatever, they just need to shut up and go away. I'm not interested in anything they have to say. They were never elected. They were not on my ballot. And like I said, the only one I have to give credit to is Amy Carter, but unfortunately, her father is more than making up for her silence.
Fair enough. Any final points on Malia Obama? Is she going to college next year? How old is she now?
She's probably going to college. I think she's 17.
Okay, so maybe she's a junior.
There's no way the Obamas are not going to have their kids go to college.
No. I meant next year. She might be a junior in high school, going a junior rather than senior year.
She's going to go to college just like
of course.
Precious Chelsea did. She'll get another phony baloney job just like Chelsea, making zillions at McKinsey and not showing up to work, and then making millions at the Obama Foundation like Chelsea's making at the Clinton Organized Crime Foundation. And, it's just a lot of baloney. These children of presidents, they really don't do anything that's of any use to America. We would be better off if they moved to another country and just went away. Even if you go back in history, my grandfather was friends with Elliot Roosevelt, who was FDR's son. And these Roosevelt kids were also a bunch of losers and do-nothings.
However, I know FDR's great-grandson, Dave Roosevelt, Christian, conservative, solid. I know Kim Roosevelt, Teddy's great-great-grandson, but that whole family was solid to begin with. But FDR's great-grandson, great guy, but he didn't come from wealth, by the way. His father had sort of rebuilt the family, whatever wealth they had. He's just like a conservative Christian, Dave Roosevelt, which is interesting. They were both in my class at Harvard.
Are they conservative?
Kim is brilliant. He's sort of a law professor at University of Pennsylvania. Kermit Roosevelt, the whatever, like fourth or whatever. He's sort of on the left to be, he's probably he's so brilliant that he has another way of thinking. But Dave Roosevelt, definitely. FDR's great-grandson definitely would not have the same views as FDR. Kermit Roosevelt might have views similar to Teddy, who was not exactly a conservative Republican anyhow. But they're both great guys, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
And here's what I worry about with Malia. What if she decides to take this theater, movie, TV thing further, and we're subjected to movies done by the brilliant director, Malia Obama.
Oy, yeah.
Yeah, think about that.
You know, they're not teaching conservatism at this fancy, spoiled, rich kids school that she goes to, the Quaker school. What is it, the Friend School?
Mm-hmm.
That's basically the liberal training ground.
Oh, by the way, did you know that Herbert Hoover was a Quaker? This is the second time this happened to me, which is embarrassing because I'm from Southeast Pennsylvania. I didn't know Herbert Hoover was a Quaker, just like I didn't know Richard Nixon was till I went to the Nixon Presidential Library over 10 years ago. But I was at the Hoover one the other day when I was driving back from Montana before I saw you in Michigan. I had no idea. Did you know that?
I did not know that. I did know Nixon was, and I do think that it's interesting that Nixon actually was very pro-Israel, even though the Quakers and the American Friends Service Committee, which is their political action committee basically, are very pro-Muslim, pro-Islamic terrorist, pro-Palestinian, very anti-Israel, support the boycott against Israel. So I give Richard Nixon credit for not giving in to that baloney.
Yeah, well, he didn't like, well, I don't know if the Quakers were as active back in 1973.
Probably not.
When you're talking about the Yom Kippur War, where Nixon, who didn't like a lot of liberal Jews personally, it seemed like, well, neither do we, but yeah, he definitely did stand up. Herbert Hoover, I guess Israel just wasn't an issue for him, realistically, being when he lived. Yeah, it's interesting. I did not know that. I mean, I grew up like a short walk from Swarthmore College, yet I did not know that. Yeah, it's just, well, not a short walk, but it would be 40 minutes or so from where I grew up, just by walk, 2 miles. And yeah, we've had more Catholic presidents than, I mean, we've had more Quaker presidents than Catholic or Muslim presidents. And even though we have 5 Catholics on the Supreme Court.
Muslim presidents perish the thought, but unfortunately that may be in our future.
2 to 1. We won't go down that road.
Oh, we actually, I must correct myself because I personally was the one that broke this story back in 2006. We do have the one Muslim president because technically you cannot deny Muslims believe Barack Obama is president. Muslims believe Barack Obama is Muslim. Barack Obama, according to Islamic law, is Muslim. He goes by the father, and his father was Muslim.
And the one response to that is look at a picture of Barack Obama Sr. and Barack Obama, and look at a picture of what's that guy's name who took the nude photos of his mom?
The one that's supposedly his father.
Yeah, look at a picture of him next. What is his name? I need another coffee. You know who I'm talking about, right? The communist in Hawaii.
Yeah, I can't remember his name either.
It's killing me. It's a good thing. Thank God it's
Friday. Malcolm X?
No, not Malcolm X. But look at a picture of...
Oh, Frank
Marshall Davis compared to Obama. And, you know, there may be a pretty good case that Obama is not actually a Muslim. On that note, Malia Obama, girls...
The bottom line is, it doesn't matter if he's a Muslim or if he isn't. He's the president that is most pandered to and bent over backward and forward. For Muslims.
He's a good little dhimmi, and he probably had a lot of dhimmitude drilled into him, literally and figuratively, at the madrasa in Indonesia. So we know what goes on there. If not, listen to the Ann Barnhart clip about that kind of stuff. But we're off topic. Debbie, thanks for your time.
And the Debbie Schlussel's comments about that.
Oh, well, what should people Google? What's the title of that?
Years ago.
I know you want to fix it. You're going to do a total update of your website, but if people want to find it, what's the title of that one? What should they Google?
I don't remember, but if they just Google DebbieSchlussel.com, Obama, Indonesia, Madrasa, they'll find all about that.
All right, Debbie. Shabbat Shalom.